You know that moment when everyone around you erupts over a touchdown and you feel absolutely nothing? Not boredom, not judgment, just this weird disconnect, like watching people celebrate something that happened to someone else entirely. If you've ever felt completely out of step during the Super Bowl party, congratulations. Your brain just revealed something that most people are too caught up in collective emotion to notice. And no, you're not antisocial. You're not a contrarian. You're not missing some crucial piece of what makes humans human. You're just wired to find meaning in places where you have actual skin in the game, where your actions matter, where the outcome depends on you, not 22 strangers on a field. Here's what nobody tells you about people who don't obsess over sports. While everyone else is outsourcing their emotional highs to athletes, your brain is doing something completely different. Something psychologists only recently figured out how to explain. And it changes everything about how you connect with people, find purpose, and build your identity. Picture this. It's Sunday afternoon. You're at a gathering. The game is on. Someone scores. The room explodes, high fives, screaming, hugging strangers like they just won the lottery together. And you're standing there thinking, we didn't do anything. Why are we celebrating? Not because you're cold or emotionally stunted, but because your brain literally processes collective achievement differently than theirs does. Here's the thing. Most people think sports fandom is about loving the game, but that's not what's actually happening in their nervous system. When their team wins, their brain releases the same dopamine surge as if they personally achieved something. The victory feels like theirs. The loss devastates them, like a personal failure. Your brain doesn't make that connection. It treats vicarious achievement, watching someone else succeed, like watching a nature documentary. Interesting, maybe even impressive, but fundamentally not about you. Think about that. While they're riding emotional roller coasters over outcomes they have zero control over, your reward system stays quiet, not broken, just calibrated differently. It's like having a spam filter for stimulation that doesn't involve your actual agency. And that filtering system? It started forming way earlier than you think. Let me break down what's really happening in that brain of yours. Number one, vicarious reward processing. Scientists call this vicarious reward processing. In plain English, your brain doesn't celebrate other people's wins. And here's what this means for you right now. While everyone else rides emotional roller coasters over things they can't control, your brain conserves energy for things that actually matter. Dr. Christian Keysers from the University of Amsterdam spent years studying mirror neurons, the brain cells that fire when we watch others perform actions. His research found that some people have highly responsive mirror neuron systems. They literally feel what they watch. But here's what makes it even more interesting. Not everyone's mirror neurons fire the same way for all activities. Your mirror neurons might light up watching someone solve a puzzle or create art. They stay dark watching strangers chase a ball. It's like your brain is playing chess while everyone else plays checkers. You need direct involvement, personal stakes, actual agency in the outcome. This isn't a deficit. It's a different wiring pattern that served a crucial evolutionary purpose. While some of our ancestors bonded through shared rituals and collective celebrations, others needed to focus on individual mastery, tool-making, problem-solving, creating things that required intense personal focus rather than group coordination. You're not antisocial. You're exactly what survival needed when the tribe was busy celebrating, and someone still needed to sharpen the spears. But here's what nobody talks about. This wiring pattern didn't just appear randomly. Something taught your brain that external validation through group achievement feels hollow. Think about when you were 9 years old. Maybe your parents signed you up for youth soccer, or dragged you to every game, or expected you to care as much as everyone else seemed to. And you remember that moment. The scratch of the team jersey against your skin, the screaming parents on the sidelines, the pressure to perform for people who weren't you. Something shifted. Your brain learned that winning for others doesn't fill the same space as mastering something yourself. That experience did more than make you indifferent to sports. It drilled in the idea that belonging shouldn't require losing your autonomy, that your emotional state shouldn't depend on the performance of strangers, every single time. You're not just someone who doesn't like sports. You're someone who developed what psychologists call an internal locus of control, a belief that your worth comes from your actions, not your affiliations. But here's the gift part. While everyone else learned to find identity through borrowed glory, you learned that real satisfaction comes from personal agency. Your brain became a lighthouse. It doesn't reflect the fires everyone else is dancing around. It shines from its own source, from work you create, problems you solve, skills you master, and that internal light, it burns steadier than any championship trophy ever could. Here's where it gets deeper. Psychologists Edward Deci and Richard Ryan from the University of Rochester spent decades studying what actually motivates human behavior. They developed self-determination theory. Scientists call this intrinsic motivation. In plain English, you're driven by internal satisfaction, not external rewards. And here's what this means for you right now. While sports fans chase the high of reflected glory, you're building genuine competence in areas where your effort directly creates the outcome. Their research showed that people with strong intrinsic motivation report higher life satisfaction, not because they achieve more, but because their sense of worth isn't hostage to things outside their control. When your team loses, a hardcore fan's identity takes a hit. When your project fails, you learn something. See the difference? Your brain treats achievement as a verb, not a noun, not something you possess through affiliation, but something you create through action. This is why small talk about last night's game feels so hollow to you. You're not being difficult. Your reward system just doesn't fire for borrowed narratives. And here's what everyone gets wrong about you. They think you're missing out. That you don't understand the joy of community, the thrill of shared experience, the beauty of tribal belonging. But you understand it perfectly. You just refuse to outsource it to strangers. Because here's what you figured out that most people are too distracted to see. Real connection doesn't come from wearing the same jersey. It comes from showing up for people when the cameras are off, when there's no crowd cheering, when the only reward is knowing you made a difference. Exactly. While they're bonding over which millionaire caught a ball, you're building relationships based on mutual respect, shared values, actual conversations that matter. Your brain is like that lighthouse again. You don't need the stadium lights to feel alive. You don't need manufactured drama to feel connected. You don't need vicarious victories to feel worthy. You create your own light through work that challenges you, hobbies you're genuinely curious about, relationships where both people show up as themselves, not as representatives of some team. And when you do feel excited, it's because you or someone you actually know did something real, something that required effort, something that wouldn't have happened without specific human choices. That's not coldness, that's integrity. That's refusing to let corporations manufacture your emotions. That's knowing the difference between entertainment and identity. The people who get you, they're not the ones screaming at screens. They're the ones building things, learning things, creating things. The ones who understand that passion requires participation, not just spectating. So the next time someone asks why you don't care about the game, you don't owe them an explanation. Your brain isn't broken. It's just allergic to fake participation, to pretending that other people's achievements fill the spaces only your own actions can satisfy. You're not missing the connection. You're just refusing the cheap version. And somewhere out there, someone else is standing at that same party, feeling that same disconnect, wondering if they're the only one. They're not. You're not. You're just wired to find meaning in places where you actually have power, where your choices matter, where the outcome depends on you showing up, not just watching someone else do it. That's not a flaw. That's a feature. If this resonated, you know what to do. Share it with someone who needs to hear they're not alone in that quiet corner of the party. Because the best tribes? They're built by people who refuse to join tribes just for the sake of belonging.